We all love a good ghost story, to feel that unexpected moment of fear, to hear of the undead, to have that momentary dread seize our hearts, a superstition, a whispering shared by those huddling in the dark. Spirits walking the earth, ghosts, the hair on the back of your neck standing on edge, the dark, the unknown, terrifying presence. She walked through the graveyard so early in the day that fingers of darkness still clutched at the surrounding graves. A misty presence brushed against her skin. Unaccountably, there were graves open all around. She reached the spot where she was heading to, but it wasn't right. She was confused. And then her name, whispered on the wind, brushed by her face. She looked around, but there was no one there. A worker, far off in the distance. Again the wind blew, and she heard her name. The hair on the back of her neck stood up, and she fled in terror from that terrible ground. Her friends, the yahoos that they were, heard her story and went rushing to the graveyard. Spirits walking? The undead? This we have to see. Only their steps faltered as they grew closer. The silence was deathly. There was an eerie feel about the place that they'd never sensed before. The wisp of fear settled on them. They finally made it to the grave of their friend so recently murdered. A simple hole in the ground. Only there were other people there searching that grave. Those others said, "He's not here anymore. Why do you look for the living among the dead?" Those two groups stared at each other. And then in a wisp of light, the others were gone. And the friends fled in terror of the undead. A short while later, they gathered in a room with the door locked. One who hadn't been with them in the graveyard asked, "Why is the door locked?" They had yet to tell their terrible story, so they simply said it was locked to keep them safe. Death. We deny death. We fear death. We ignore death. Death is the great determinator of life. How we deal with death has a lot to do with how we deal with life. Friends, family, strangers, loved ones die. And we're left all alone picking up the pieces, living a new life that seems to be missing something somehow. Most faiths talk about something after death. It tends to be geared towards something that you found pleasurable in life. Relaxing, finally, on fluffy white clouds with peaceful harps and apparently eating cream cheese. My wife and I have been watching The Good Place on Netflix. It's about life after death. It's kind of weird and quirky. Many people watch some version of Ghost Hunter or Haunted Places on television, shows that are designed to give you the creeps. We are fascinated with life and with death and with what comes afterwards. I remember those who have meant a great deal to me, friends and family who've died. They live on in my heart and in my memories. But do they live on in some other way? Is it a good place? Or do we let the specter of death stalking us on this earth to keep us in fear of losing all the life that we have right now? There's some part of us that resonates with horror, of this specter of death stalking us. The terrible after-death time, The Walking Dead, World War Z, evil demons, haunted places. Those friends had locked the door and barred the window to the room they were in, and they had barely started to talk about the horrid encounter in that graveyard when a silence stopped their story. An apparition appeared right in their midst. Are there ghosts? Are there spirits that haunt hotels or homes or dark forests or forbidding mountains? Have you had the experience of someone watching you? No one's there. Have you heard your name whispered, but you don't know where it came from? Are the ghost stories true? Now, here's a weird thing. Every time angels appear in the Bible, everyone is terrified. In my role as a minister, I've shared with many people through the times they have struggled with death. And early on in my unfolding understanding of faith, I rejected the idea that death and illness and sorrow are somehow planned by God. God didn't need another angel. That's not what death is about. I do know that the reality of death makes each day that we have more valuable. And I just love the idea that maybe there's something more after death. And I've certainly seen lots of circumstantial evidence of this, but I don't know for sure. And I'll only know when I'm dead. And at that point, I probably won't be able to fill you in on what I found out. Mostly, I don't suspect have YouTube in heaven. Some of us spend our lives worrying about death. And it's been said that we have been born to die. And so we bend a great deal of effort into activities and endeavors, all of them designed to help us hold death at arm's length just as long as we can. Walk 10,000 steps. Eat the right food. Get vaccinated. That's a smart idea, by the way. Have healthy relationships. Find a friend or even two. Participate in wellness activities. Find a therapist. The list goes on. And none of these are necessarily poor activities to engage in. But if that's where you spend most of your time, then you're missing out on living. Had we not been born, we wouldn't have to worry about dying. Life is our friend. It's a gift worth immersing ourselves in. Death lives next door, not in our house. Don't spend too much time with your neighbor. Spend more time in your house, with your friend, with life. I hope that we can say most of the time that I have fully lived today. The friends in that room with the locked door had a ghostly encounter. They were terrified. One of their friends, Tom, wasn't there that day. He heard all the stories, and then he told them, I saw my friend die. I saw my friend placed in the ground. He remains dead to me. And then, as things kept falling apart, two of them fled down a road away from Jerusalem. The city, which had seemed so welcoming a week ago, had descended into madness. Innocent people were being executed. Prisoners were free to roam the street. The two traveled all day. They picked up a traveling companion along the way. All they talked about was the madness in Jerusalem and how they couldn't get far enough away fast enough. They stopped for a meal at the end of the day, and then, right before their eyes, their companion disappeared. Just disappeared. One moment he was there, and then he was gone. And they realized at that moment that the madness was spreading. Some kind of barrier stopped them from going further, and so, in fear, they fled back to their place of refuge, fled through the night hours back to Jerusalem because they knew there was no escape. And they gathered once again with their friends in a room with locked doors. Tom was with them that time. And in a terrifying do-over, the apparition appeared again. Once again, stillness and fear filled all of them. It looked directly at Thomas and then spoke. Put your finger here and see my hands. Reach out your hand and put it in my side. Do not doubt, but believe. A ghost? A person? The walking dead? If this encounter with Tom says anything, it's found in the line, do not doubt, but believe. We live in a variety of situations and life experiences. And I wonder if the true ghosts today, the true walking dead, live right amongst us right now. They're the ones living in poverty, in slavery. Unbelievable in this day and age that there's slavery. They're the ones living with illness and persecuted, and they're humiliated, and they're judged, and they're rejected, and they feel like ghosts in this land. You know, it's so easy to turn our neighbors into ghosts, to be ones that we fear. It's easy to be selfish and uncaring. It's easy to let the hungry stay hungry and the prisoners go to jail. And always there's that question, what kind of a person are you? Ebenezer Scrooge faced that question through his 3 ghostly encounters. It's not our good works that get us into heaven. It's not our good works that lead us into the good place. These things are already given to us by God. Do not doubt, but believe. The art is for each of us to learn how to live. And we begin to learn how to live by simply valuing the life that we have right now. Death will come, sometimes sooner, sometimes later. Just deal with it as best you can. Know that the ghosts and demons are the ones that we need. Know that these ghosts and demons are transformed when we feed the hungry and clothe the naked and heal the sick and welcome those who find that life is too much. Do not doubt, but believe. Start looking forward, not into the haunted past. We're now walking the journey of Lent. The future is in God's hands. Nourish our minds, enrich our spirits, strengthen our will, feed our souls, be kind and love others. That apparition, which appeared in that locked room, turned out to be way more than an angel that brought terror. Today, the name is the Holy Ghost. And my friends, that's the best ghost story of all.